Hi everyone, George and Loud Leon here of Sovereign Key Productions. Thank you for joining us. Today is going to be a presentation of Astrotheology. We feel it is particularly important to cover this area because we have felt that it is in some areas incomplete. As the saying goes, all roads lead to Rome in the worldly sense, but in the cosmological sense, there is another place where the road leads to, and that is the kingdom come. So the question is, well, what is God? What is the kingdom? And what do all the events that are occurring right now, what is it all leading up to? What is the culmination of all these things? We have already exposed two major rituals which are pending and decoded, both the East and West Coast rituals that will be affecting the United States of America and parts of Canada. That information has been brought forth because the ones who call themselves the Luciferians, they feel that they have been placed here on Earth to fulfill a role, which they liken to a game. And if you want to know more information on that, I recommend people go over the Hidden Hand dialogue, and they give a lot of clues as to how they operate and what their mindset is. So we're going to be touching on parts of that because the dialogue also outlined the cycles, the ages, the equinoxes, and they certainly are following cosmological events and astrology, and a lot of their rituals go by cosmology and by the numbers.
With what we are going to be bringing forward, people are going to be able to have further veils removed because everything is hidden in plain sight. And once those veils are removed, you will be able to see that everything that has been constructed here has been fashioned with regards to all of this information. And history has been comprised, or I don't like saying history, but air story has been comprised of a compilation of these rituals, this knowledge that has been handed down throughout time, and society has been fashioned from that, as well as language. I feel that these are going to be the preliminary stages of many more veils coming.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, the acceleration, the days of apocalypse, meaning revealing. Now, the keepers of secrets are the ruling elite. You know, this is everything that is in the Vatican vault and way beyond that. These are the people, or the individuals and the entities which recorded and could record all of history because this is their dominion.
Exactly.
So,
and they could fashion society, cultures, civilizations, languages according to that knowledge, which is exactly what's happened. And the decoding has been dormant within everyone's DNA, hence those are the veils, which are now being lifted. Because
and there are clues to all these stories, and I can list the Bible as an example because through my studies of those works, and you know, the Tower of Babel is a good example of how when people start awakening, that is when the lords come down and are threatened by that.
Exactly.
And yeah, that is usually at the period of what is known as the harvest, and where the rescattering occurs through the ecological changes, the physical pole shifts that occur during these cycles. So the mystery keepers and the adepts of the mystery schools are aware of all this knowledge, and it would not shock me in the least if they are even aware of when the day of the Lord arises, because there's a lot of clues that they give for people, those with the eyes to see, and the Bible has to be read with the eyes of the Spirit, because otherwise you will stumble, because you will not be able to determine what is literal, what is metaphorical, what is allegorical, because they are all intertwined. So for example, they will use scriptures pertaining to the Lord to describe the binary nemesis system, the destroyer, wormwood, and that is a debt allocated to a celestial object. And then other times the lords would be the reference for the lords of the plantation, the gods that had people in subjugation to them and under command. So it is very vital that people see the book as a code book, the Bible as a code book, because it does need to be decoded via the Spirit and through spiritual eyes.
As do all of the, quote, religious texts.
Yes.
They're all coded for the same information. So.
Well, yeah, because all the Abrahamic texts, through Judaism or through the Muslim faith, have their version of the end times. All cultures have their version and their myths.
Absolutely.
And, the Indians, the Brahma, Vishnu, the creation, destruction cycles. All of these races have their version of that. Unfortunately, over time, people have relegated these accounts as mythology, and that would be a very highly incorrect assumption. So there are examples of many metaphorical examples of the creation and destruction aspects that are outlined in the bi-duality book, the two bulls. So,
and bi is exactly the duality system of the two suns.
Absolutely. So yes, there is the life-giving sun, and then there is the sun of the uncreation, the dissolution, but the resurrection. And we're going to be speaking of the resurrection when we cover the astrotheological aspects, because this is where a lot of people are getting caught out, especially those who identify with themselves as Christians, because they're not seeing the other part of the code. They're taking everything as literal. But there's a lot more depth that the initiates of mystery schools, who actually teach their initiates via the Bible and through these religious texts. That's why you will find in Freemasonic societies they utilize the Bible in their teachings, and they don't want that known. That it is actually the mystery schools who actually were the scribes of these works. You have to look deeper and penetrate through the veils and layers through your own seeking, because otherwise these are just words that we're outlining. If you don't actually seek the seeds that we are planting here, because that's all we can do is plant the seeds. You have to do the rest to unlock. You have your own codes inside that you can unlock and open the internal doors, the metaphorical doors to truth and knowledge. And really, that's our part in all this. We're just sharing what has been unlocked in us, and through our experiences and insights. And
because everything is within us.
Yes, the kingdom is within.
And
also, as above, so below.
Exactly. And with reference to the Freemasons, they have been groomed to do their job, which is, being the keepers of the secret doctrine. And they have been taught that the ancients that worshipped the gods and deities were mighty men of renown who came to earth from the heavens. And they have been taught specifically where the origins of these gods came from. And they have been keeping the secrets as per them from the very beginning of this story prior to these harvests.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because as I mentioned previous, the worldly version in saying all roads lead to Rome, if we were going to speak of the cosmological version, as above, so below, we would be saying all roads lead to Sirius.
Exactly.
Because Sirius is the key. Sirius is the cosmic egg of creation of this galactic platform. And so the alpha and the omega point was the inception, the creation aspect coming from Sirius and then returning at the end of the age.
And interestingly, Sirius comes from the Greek language, meaning scorcher.
Yeah, the blazing sun,
And
the scorpion.
glowing, yeah.
And it is also a referenced as the dog star worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at the inverse, because they reveal via their spelling and they invert, why is it that the inverse of God is dog? God created the heavens and the earth. The origins were Sirius. It's not an accident that the spelling reveals.
And the Egyptians knew this because this information was handed down to the ancient wisdom schools in Egypt. And the families that were selected were actually the ruling families that came from Samaria, Mesopotamia, and prior. So they knew about the star Sirius, and they knew it was the dog star. And they worshipped that under the guise of Anubis, the jackal-headed god. And that's where they derived their chief deities of the Egyptian religion and culture, which are Osiris, lord of the underworld, and Isis, the star goddess.
Yes, well, and that's why when we outlined the Statue of Liberty being a representation of Isis, do you think it's an accident that Statue of Liberty is S-O-L, soul, sun?
Yeah.
So she is a depiction of the solar goddess and the womb.
Exactly,
Creational.
the womb of creation, the egg of creation,
Yeah.
where life sprang. And when you look at the art in the ancient civilizations, you can start seeing this depiction everywhere.
Because you had mentioned the earth creation aspect being from the war of these gods, these titans, so would you then posit that these entities also stemmed from the Sirius star system and that cluster?
As per this particular verse, yes.
Okay. So Sirius is the brightest star that can be seen with the unaided eye. It is over 20 times brighter than the sun. It is also a projector. Many of these ancients knew that Sirius was a projector onto this earth as well, in terms of the cosmic energies that would flow through, and that we do agree with. The number 7 is ascribed to Sirius because, again, it's depiction of God, dog, who perfected the creation over 7 days, completed creation. So we have the number 7 for creation and the God aspect, and we also have the 7s all over the uncreation. And this is why you have 7 seals, 7 angels, 7 bowls of judgment, seven plagues, 7 thunders, and 7 trumpets pertaining to the end times effects upon the earth that will see the stages of uncreation. So this is why for the ritual codes, they presented the 777 because that is a marker. And also the bull, the Baal representation, which again is cosmological in scope of its nature, because they are following the astrological aspects back to origins, being Sirius. So that's the relevance there, and I would recommend that people who are interested in cosmology do examine Sirius very, very closely, because it is a major key of truth and knowledge as to coming events and where this epoch of the age leads to, which is the representation of the dying son of man and then the resurrection of the new son to depict the new creation after the days of darkness, the death process.
And interestingly, Sirius is known as the triple star system, the trinary system.
Yes, it is trinary.
and it is known as being the triple system of Orion, Sirius, Osiris, and Isis.
Orion is called the father, Sirius the mother. And it is also reported that the three magi of the Bible that found the sun is basically Orion's belt. People can examine that further for themselves, because a lot of these stories that people take literally are cosmological metaphors and allegories.
And
So,
the reference to giants are also meaning the stars that fall, the stars within
and angels also.
exactly within the
An angel can be a messenger, an
Yeah.
entity that is a messenger, and is also depicted and known as a star. So,
exactly.
so a falling angel can be a falling star. The Egyptian priests and the initiates were known as being sun worshippers, but what people don't realize is that Christianity, the religious systems, the religion systems, also are sun worshippers, and they don't realize that. And this is why, for example, when Christians celebrate Easter, that is a direct correlation with the Eastern Star, Easter. It's right there in your face.
Star.
Easter is Sirius. You are giving a homage to Sirius, the Sirius star system. It's a major example, but it's right there in your face. But yet people don't realize. And why is it that it's all about the egg, the Easter egg at Easter? These are pagan customs, or what would be called pagan customs. And it is exactly the same with Christ Mass, the X Mass. Do people know what the X Mass even is? And how the X is actually a depiction of a crossing? That's what it is. It's the Mass of the crossing. The day of the Lord that brings destruction upon the earth in the darkness. Because the preceding its rise, there is 3 days of darkness. That is literal cosmological knowledge. You have Santa Claus, anagram Satan Claus, who knows who's naughty and nice, on Xmas Day, because that is harvest, that is sifting, that is the divide, that is the judge. And Jesus Christ, the anagram of Jesus Christ is chest jurist. It is the duality, the Lord of duality, the binary Lord. Once we enter the Sirius zone.
Which is the convergence of the event horizon.
Exactly right. So the 3 days of darkness. Now, the hidden hand apparently did give a day of the rising of this Lord star. He or she said it was the 21st of December, which coincides with the Mayan calendar. That authorship says that the 21st, that is the rising. 3 days of darkness you have from the 21st. Now the fourth day after that would be the 25th of December, which is where people celebrate Christ Mass Day, X Mass. Though, as we have kept emphasizing, the one that people refer to as Jesus Christ was an individual entity who did come to spread a message of enlightenment and to herald enlightenment, and one who did overcome the world and came here to share the light of truth to others. But he traveled all over. There are records that he traveled to India, that he did share that message of truth and light and the kingdom within across the world. And he overcame death. He did not get crucified. We know that that is a heavy statement to make, and I'm sensitive to those who do not want certain beliefs shattered, but that whole crucifixion account is metaphorical. Well, the iron being hammered in the hand, the iron coming through to the flesh is representative of the iron that is going to be coming through with this system. Mm-hmm. And it does come mingled with blood. Mm-hmm. And it also will shed blood upon the earth. Mm-hmm. And it is a piercing through the veil. The wormwood star, these celestial bodies cross the dimensional veils. We are in a containment system. This is exactly why when it pierces through the veil, it will come like a thief in the night. The day of the Lord comes quickly, and there will be short notice, because it is a trans-dimensional object, and it will break through dimensional veils. And this is exactly why it can be seen and photographed for years before its entry. It is letting people know that we are at this point. It is signaling to the children that it is here. But when it breaks through into our conscious layer and level, it will come like a thief in the night. And I have been directly shown this system, whether you want to call it a prophetic dream or insight. I was shown that this system, all the bodies are viewed at once that come through. And I was shown the binary sun and about 7 to 8 objects that become apparent in an instant. And I was shown the people around me in this scene shocked because it appears suddenly. It comes in suddenly. The Lord is this nemesis binary sun, which does bring destruction, and the new birth, the new age with it, when the kingdom comes.
I want to describe to people that the splitting of the cells that I speak about in the convergence of the event horizon, the nature of reality itself with the holograms of this trinary system that are viewed, because everything here is a manifested state, it's consciousness. The splitting of the cells will be completed with the convergence of the event horizon when it happens in a split moment. And that's why it is going to be instantaneous. So where many will experience where their consciousness is trapped in that lower frequency, many will be transplanted instantly.
Yes, and the polarity of that will also be those who come undone.
Exactly,
well.
Yes.
So, because it is the great divide. It is the separator of the wheat and the tares. This whole process, and the events prior, the events also leading up, are part of this separation of the wheat and the tares.
Mm-hmm.
Because
splitting of the cells, yeah.
Yes, because there are going to be lead up events and signs in the heaven and on the earth that the day of the Lord is coming. Now, you bringing up the atom, you also reminded me of the other metaphor at the crucifixion of Christ. Mm-hmm. So the Jesus entity was pierced with a spear through the rib. Yes. Through the rib. Yes. Now, why the rib? Because the rib was where atom was formed through the rib. through DNA, through the cellular network.
Mm-hmm.
And piercing that is representative of, at this juncture point, wormwood,
Mm-hmm.
nemesis, pierces the body
Nemesis, wormwood,
on
pierce
every level.
the body of creation itself, because the rib of creation,
The waters and the blood of creation
yes.
as well.
So, and that is why the symbolism with the spear piercing the rib.
Yes, again, it is all metaphorical. The King of Kings overcame the world, and he came here to teach us how also to overcome and to be prepared for these times. And this is why a lot of the teachings, even though there's been distortions, they have been allowed through the duality game of the rulers of the world system. We have to be given opportunity to see the light and the pearls of truth, which are also included in all these religious texts also. We absolutely are not wiping away with that and throwing the baby out with the bathwater. There is so much light truth within the Bible, and also prophetic insights to be gleaned and gained. We just have to be very careful in how we view what is literal and what is metaphorical, and what is also a black square in the black and white square game, because we have these adversaries who are part of the rulerships here, and they do operate as adversaries. So their duty is to be the snarers and to tempt people and to provide all the tools of our own destruction,
Mm-hmm.
if we choose to embrace them. So to them, they are playing a game. They are being a catalyst operation in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I do say that a lot of these Luciferians have been deceived themselves to play this role,
Mm-hmm.
because they feel that they belong to the group soul Lucifer. But I say that there is no such thing as a group soul. You are all individual souls, though you have been birthed into particular bloodlines to also be tested yourself. Even though they undertake many harsh oppressions and programming in their grooming, they also are tested through the refining fires to also resist their programming. So I posit that no, you do not have to harm anybody, and if you have fallen into that mindset, into that mode of thinking, you have been deceived. And that is my message to the Luciferians of this world, and those who are playing this role, that feel that they have to bring in a negative harvest. You are also here to work upon yourselves. You are not exempt from that. That's for every single one of us. Because because the way the duality works is that we have 50% aptitude for negative within our DNA as well as positive. It is the higher self within us and the lower self, whether you want to call it the carnal nature of people, and the higher nature, and what we have the ability to transmute. So there are scales being measured upon us all, including these Luciferian elites.
Many are players of this game through inheritance throughout the lineages of time.
Inherited bondage. They are here to transmute that, because they do unfortunately have the soul memory within them, which has been generationally inherited through their bloodline, and they are also here to transmute that, even though they may not be aware that if they've been groomed to believe that they have to be negative as possible, and even perform rituals where they even allow other entities to take over their vessel, which there are rituals that can be performed where people can basically give up their estate. And
absolutely, the ancient Egyptians and the Sumerians knew all about this. The ancient magicians have founded a lot of the mind magic based on this transference of souls and consciousness. and walk-in technology. So
inverted alchemy, inverted sorcery.
yeah.
They have been refining and practicing that for many thousands of years, countless thousands. Again, this is through the corruption that entered at the, I'll just term it, the fall of man.
And just as the atom, atom Ra, it's also symbolic at the tip of the spear, as in being a pyramid, because that also has a lot to do with not just the structures that we find all over.
Well, you have two pyramid systems. That's the Star of David.
Well,
Is
yeah, and it's, if you can see that, right, which is the convergence of the two worlds, the inverted to the verted. And in the center of the crossing, you have the T-plane.
Again, hidden in plain sight, planet, T-plane. So that is a key to the structure as well. And the points converge. So this is where the crossing is, the convergence of these
and the birth, the new birth.
Structures and cosmological entities.
Yeah, and the new birth of a new verse.
It is vital to also say that suns are actual celestial beings, and this is why they have been worshipped, is because to be a sun is to play a role in creation. It is a form of service, and these are beings who are performing service for creation, for the purposes of creation, uncreation, and the cycles.
Mm-hmm.
So they are
crossing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that again is another mystery, and something to work towards. It is as above, so below, because our spirits, as part of an essence of God, in a manner of speaking, is we are the mini suns. We are the mini version of the light.
Yeah, we are the spark of the all spark.
Once we evolve to a certain point through infinity, then those who do evolve will too have an opportunity in the infinite layers of the multiverses. There are going to be celestial gates opened, and there are going to be particular entities which are going to be allowed to enter. And this is the part of the story where the days of the great deception are coming, and I've testified to that also, what I've been shown of that with the UFO deception and the beings which are going to be coming through and allowed to play their greater role in the testing, in the refining, and who's been paying attention, who has done the spiritual work, who has been overcoming the world through not only their works, and their faith and the knowledge that they have gleaned for themselves, and who have hungrily sought knowledge in their love for the truth.
Well, this experience, our experience in these bodies, are based on a hologram that is through a filter system that we feel everything as real as possible. In one way it's real, but it's based on a holographic projection. So this consciousness of these beings, of these, quote, stars, they are co-creators. This is where the demigods stem from. This is where the creation of worlds comes from. So it's fields within fields within fields projecting this holographic state of reality that we're all, quote, not just witnessing, but co-creating and living through to manifest into the becoming.
Well, exactly. And a lot of people have even argued whether it's a school or a prison. I say it's both, because we are within a containment system. Even the body is a form of a containment system where you are bound by the laws of the flesh. Absolutely. And the flesh makeup.
Right.
However, where I liken it to being a school is that there is allowance and opportunity to transmute and to graduate, to personally ascend beyond that construct, beyond that containment system. So I would say it all depends on your perspective, whether you view it as a school or a prison, because there is a way out.
It all depends on the state of mind in your own consciousness and what you accept. So whatever agreements of entrapment you make for yourself and you create and you accept via the hitchhikers is what you are going to manifest. So that consciousness will be determined by you and only you. What you accept is what you will manifest, and what you don't accept, you won't. But it has to be true on all levels. It can't just be on, you can't fake it, or you can't pretend in consciousness in the forefront while you have an imposter driving your vehicle. It doesn't work.